Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast. And today's guest is Peter Schloo, who's the CEO and director of Heritage Mining, who are a private, well-capitalized mining company focused on acquiring tier one, advanced stage precious and base metal exploration projects and junior micro producer project stage assets. Peter's background is in capital markets, operations and assurance, working with junior miners and financial institutions in his career. And he's here today to tell us more about Heritage Mining and what they're looking to achieve moving forward. So let's welcome Peter to the podcast. How are you doing, Peter?
Good, Rob. How are you? Thanks for having me here.
I'm good, thank you. And I appreciate your time as well. So how we always kick off these podcasts, I wonder if you could tell the audience or give the audience a little bit of background about yourself, a little bit about your career before we go into sort of more detailed questions around heritage mining and the things that you're doing. So I hand it over to you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much. So I've grew up in Ontario, mostly Newmarket, Ontario. Went to high school there. Went to University of Toronto, Mississauga. Had a few internships in some financial institutions. Manulife, KPMG. Landed at KPMG. Worked on my chartered accountant there. Had a few stops at Price Waterhouse, Sun Life, both fantastic firms, and then moved over. Actually, so within that time, my chartered accountant and chartered financial analyst designations were kind of well underway and wrapped up at Sun Life, and then jumped into the mining space with predominantly Mongolian-based projects. I was part of the Step Gold IPO, the Ion Energy IPO, and held a few positions on some CPCs as well, capital pool companies with them.
So taking a step back, when I kind of sit back and reflect on those, on the various experiences that I had learned, I thought it was important to kind of tie in the immense amount of character building experiences like throughout my career that have translated into the success of what we're building today. Just to take it way back, I took a real interest in accounting from an early age, as my father's an accountant, and one of my aunts was a senior executive at Manulife Financial. So really opening up the downtown scene of finance and kind of the glory, and wow, I really want to be there. This is I'm talking from early high school. This is coming from growing up in basically farm town before I moved to Newmarket. I grew up in Alliston and Mono, attending an elementary school in Colgan, Ontario, basically a one-block town, beautiful place. I visit it regularly. They actually have a nice golf course there. I had a bit of business experience actually selling gumballs in the schoolyard once I realized the markup I could make from them selling it in the school gym relative to buying a whole bucket of gumballs from the convenience store down the road. Anyway, that may be a conversation that can be furthered on for maybe over a drink or a coffee. But I just thought it gives the listener some color of where I'm from and, some of the early experiences as an entrepreneur. I think I got in a bit of trouble with the principal for doing that. But what are you going to do? Learning and character building experiences. From the experiences with KPMG, Price Waterhouse, and Sun Life, one of the lessons or one learns how to work extremely hard and, more importantly, smart, prioritize and execute on high priority items, time management, and overall one takes back from these experiences how some of the largest companies in Canada are run. These are big boys and they have their performance expectations from their people, and boy oh boy, what a time I had. very grateful for that experience. And, I'll learn things that no one can ever take away from me, which is fantastic. Sun Life specifically, I had an extraordinary experience there where I took up, took my finance experience and education to date and combined it with, coding, basically. It started out basic and intermediate. And then I guess at the end, we had some advanced coding team in there, to help automate. I personally did, approximately 90% of my role. And the group, I think we got, to about 60%. That was with kind of a special team. Sun Life is very advanced, embraces new concepts, especially suggested internally. The business was growing, still is, and no one was laid off as a result. The group learned, new skill sets, and I can't even imagine what they're up to now. They're kind of really on the forefront. So, fantastic experience there that I can, translate into, capital raising and automating, the process, filling out subscription agreements and automating that, saves a lot of time. During that time, from, KPMG, even before that, through to Sun Life, one sits back and after all this learning, where do I really want to be? What can I make my career look like? Because I kind of believe, I'm in charge of kind of my own destiny. So how do we shape this to where I want to be? Mining, in my opinion, after looking at all the industries, because with a chartered accountant or CPA and a chartered financial analyst, you can have a lot of transferable skill sets that you can kind of do basically whatever you want. Mining, in my opinion, has the absolute best of both worlds. I mean, I can be downtown, and I've done this. I can be downtown, pitching the company, meeting new people, building new relationships, and doing the, all-out finance and capital markets grind. The next week, you're in the thick bush on ATVs, slow and steady, 2 hours from the logging road to the farthest target on our Black Lake Drayton property, getting our hands dirty, pulling away overburden to find old channel samples. When I thought about combining my knowledge of finance and capital markets, during my time at KPMG, Pricewaterhouse, and I guess I must have. So when I thought about combining my knowledge of finance and capital markets with mining, I thought, the longer you maintain the ability to absorb new technical information and just maintain that constant mentality of, be a sponge, learn as much as you can in every opportunity that you can from individuals with more experience and reputable experience than you, the more irreplaceable and valuable you become in an area where, we all know that the age gap, it's a popular topic. The age gap between the average CEO and, I guess myself now, relative to other industries is quite large. I thought, this is where I'm going to make the most difference, and I'm going to go after it with everything that I have. Once I jumped into the meat grinder of, junior mining and capital markets, this is where the rubber, really hit the road, in my opinion. I didn't mention this, but while I was at the University of Toronto, Mississauga, I was a teaching assistant. So I had two classes of, 50 to, 80 students that I was in front of and communicating tutorials. And then on top of that, I had a part-time sales rep job at TELUS where I was one of the top performing sales rep. And by this, I mean the top 2% in Canada. Not bad for a part-time gig. Met some great people and I learned how to sell. So, you kind of draw on these presentation skills and sales skill sets while armed with my career my career of character building experiences. Put that and then, you can communicate effectively to new investors, which, that's kind of, while I'm in the meat grinder here, or was, assisting in raising capital at various stages, both private and public companies we worked with in the sector. In one of the toughest markets, I'm told, right, in my experience. I kind of jumped in 2018. Step Gold was the only gold IPO on the TSX main board that year. So, you want to call the bottom of a market, that might be pretty close, in my opinion. My old group recognized my value made me, interim CFO and VP corporate and business development of Ion Energy as a result of the value added from a financial and capital raising standpoint. I'm pretty good at that. And I added value through these roles very well. And from, the date of this recording, Ion Energy has done very well, and the team is doing a good job. And I'm very happy for them. They also made me CFO of Spirit Banner Capital Corp, public CPC at that time. So overall, great learning experience in my career to date. Also, just want to point out before we jump on to the next question that over my time here with Heritage, I'm now a licensed prospector in Ontario, and apparently a great field technician. Quote from Mitch. I'm one of the few, if the only strong finance background CEO that he's come across that has been able to kind of charge through the bush. So, I got the education, but I also have no problem picking up a chainsaw and cutting down a tree kind of falling over on the ATV trail. So, kind of get the best of both worlds here.
Yeah. So obviously you're the CEO of Heritage Mining. I wondered if you can tell us a little bit about the company, I suppose a little bit of the history about the company and sort of where you're up to today. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. So I founded the company along with kind of the founding directors, in 2019. We closed the founder round in May. But the vision of it was, I'm more of a relationship-based person. So in my time with my old group, I maintained a lot of relationships and from a technical standpoint and from a capital market standpoint. And when I sat back and kind of assessed the next step, it was I want to build the right team first and then find the projects. And that's not normally something that I've seen. It's more you kind of find the projects and build out the team. But if my vision is, if we have a team together, and the team's vision at that is, if you have the right people together that have brought projects from exploration all the way through to production, then when you look and evaluate projects, you're going to look at it through that lens, which I think is very important. So that's what we did. We raised some money off of the back of the team.
We then entered into an agreement with our Harrigan Cove property, which allows via an option agreement, which allowed us to potentially prove the project prior to purchasing. It's a familiar structure that we see commonly in the junior exploration space. It's beneficial to us as it allows us to kind of deploy our capital in a more efficient manner. The project was attractive as advanced exploration, more than 100 holes in a 400 hectare space, drilled by previous explorers in the district, confirmed high grade. We had a narrow intercept of 1.52 meters, over 1.52 meters at 59 grams per ton. Just as a note there, we kind of executed the agreement, and we had drills turning within 4 weeks. Brought it to a decision point at that time once the results came in. Did some more follow-up questions and decided, to drop the project. This had a deposit style, subtle restyle deposit targeting gold with, the vision of an open pit disseminated in vein style deposit. It's in a strong region. Nova Scotia has a strong government for the mining sector, low geopolitical risk, active mining, the Turquoise mine, and an established mining jurisdiction. The proximity to infrastructure and skilled labor supported the likelihood of future economic production, so it was of interest. We've since then dropped the option. We then pivoted in 2021, September. We pivoted to Ontario, closed progressive discussions with Group 10 Metals, signing a definitive option agreement over the Black Lake Drayton project, our flagship project, which is approximately 13,700 hectare package, 25 kilometers from Sioux Lookout, Ontario. We closed another package within the Black Lake Drayton property recently from a private party, again via option, which now kind of provides a fully aggregated package that we can progress systematically, which we're very excited about. It's also adjacent to Treasury Metals, who has had some fantastic results as of recent on their Goldland and Goliath projects, along with and our project is along the structural trend with strong gold and copper values, which I don't think has been mentioned in the area, which we're very excited about. Also, during our due diligence visit to the Black Lake Drayton property, we stopped by a few other properties. Our technical team took a great interest in our now fully aggregated Contact Bay property. Over the last few months, we've had successful negotiations with Transition Metals and EMX Royalties, two publicly traded companies, and two private landowners, or claim owners, so to speak, plus additional staking by yours truly. I guess I'm now, as I said, I'm a licensed prospector in Ontario, so I think I actually stake those. To an aggregate of 4,700 hectares land package. This is adjacent to an active exploration project through KG Exploration, a subsidiary of Kinross, with strong gold indications in the northeast and strong copper, nickel, platinum, palladium to the southwest. So, two very exciting projects. Black Lake Drayton is our main focus, and we can talk a little bit more about the advancements and plans for that later. I'm sure we have some questions lined up. And then, as of recent, we've signed on with Red Cloud as our lead agent for our brokered IPO, and are planning to file our preliminary prospectus as soon as possible and assess the capital raise capabilities, and are really looking forward to getting this up and trading in the near future.
Yeah. And I wonder, you briefly mentioned obviously the management team that you brought together. I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about that, obviously your management team, and maybe a little bit about them and how you picked them or how you all come together.
The board is strong with both deep and technical financial experience. I'm honored that they are a part of the Heritage Mining team, and look forward to working with them as we kind of progress to the next step, going public. Patrick Moen, chairman, has held numerous director positions in the mining space. Notably, Patrick's past success includes the development of the Côté Gold Project and sale of Trelawney Mining and Exploration to IM Gold Corp for $585 million in cash in 2012, which is now being advanced to the next stage. Jim Fairburn, CFO and Director of Heritage, was also a board member of Trelawney and has held numerous board and senior executive positions in a number of private and public mining and junior exploration companies. Jim and I work very well together, and his input from a financial perspective in the mining sector is greatly appreciated. So it's great that both Pat and Jim have a known high finance transactional experience that they bring quite a bit to the table. So I'm honored to work with them. Ray Carvelis, Director of Heritage, previously occupied his position as President, CEO, and Director of DRA Global, leading over 4,500 employees across 5 continents. His previous role in the group, he was responsible for project execution across $5 billion in Canadian portfolio of development and production operations. He's also held positions at KBR, ELB, and De Beers involving management of development, production, and metallurgical R&D and capital management responsibilities. So he kind of shells out from a technical perspective the lens that we look through. Patrick Sullivan, Corporate Secretary of Heritage Mining, is a mining, M&A, and securities lawyer at a national law firm with a decade of experience in the junior mineral exploration sector. He's acted on several significant global mining transactions, notably South 32 Limited, $2.1 billion acquisition of Arizona Mining, Washington Company's $1.2 billion acquisition of Dominion Diamond Corp, and Hudbay Minerals' $555 million acquisition of Augusta Resources Corporation. Patrick also has significant experience advising on mineral stream and royalty finance transactions. As of recent, Patrick represented Kinross in the Great Bear Kinross pending acquisition. He's a strong officer, and we're glad to have Patrick in the full support of Osler. They've provided invaluable in the negotiation and transactional structuring of our current exploration and option and asset purchase agreements. Mitch Lavery, our principal geologist, over 45 years experience in exploration and development of mining projects with a number of junior and major mining companies, notably discovery of the North Zone at Bell Creek Gold Mine in Timmins, the development of the operation and Jouy Gold Mine, Val d'Or, Quebec. He's currently president and director of Seahawk Gold Corp, as our qualified, as our QP, and a lifetime member of the PDAC. Moving on, our external strategic advisors have proven invaluable to where we are today as well. Although they maintain a full-time commitment elsewhere, I have their ear on advisement where and when needed in respect of their time, of course, on various projects, as we have been evaluating kind of in project evaluation mode, so to speak, for the last year or so. Myself personally have been through all of the TSX Venture, CSE, and some of the ASX public listed companies evaluating projects, reaching out and maintaining contact to kind of progress strategic acquisitions, of which we've now executed and have now switched gears to advancing our projects in Ontario. Just to talk about the external strategic advisors here, Jeremy Okelson. Mr. Okelson has a engineering degree and MBA from Queen's. He's responsible for was responsible for client management and strategic operations in the America, being associated with sales of over 1.5 billion of EPCM services for tier 1 clients such as Vale, Rio Tinto, Barrick, Newmont, Teck, to name a few, as well as numerous tier 2 junior and exploration clients. Dave Frost has 28 years in all facets of the mining process, 15 years spent in production and the last 13 in senior management roles, experience in the Fiji Islands, Thailand, Indonesia, Brazil, Chile, has been a resident in Canada since 2014, and his experience focuses on precious and base metal processing plant designs, including NI 43101 reporting and compliance. Both Jeremy and Dave Frost provide insight into what projects can become pitfalls in getting there and providing realistic kind of recommendations on how to progress from a heritage perspective while maintaining that long-term view of what a mine becomes and how to get there. Alex Pernin, CEO of Star Royalties, previously responsible for capital allocation and corporate development at Barrick Gold. 6.5 billion Rand Gold resource acquisition and the 5 billion Barrick Gold Newmont Mining Nevada joint venture. Prior to Barrick, Alex was in equity research at Canaccord Genuity, where he covered junior and mid-cap precious metals. He was previously in operations as well at Freeport and in exploration across Canada. Peter Burez, Chief Business Development Officer of Star Royalties, and now on the board of several Canadian-listed mining companies. He has a breadth and depth of experience, both on-site, buy-side, and sell-side, positions totaling over 20 years at Placer Dome, HSBC New York, Orion, BMO, and Canaccord Genuity. Interesting point about Alex and Peter. We actually shared office space while building Heritage Mining and also their company, Star Royalties, from the beginning, which, that's very exciting to share that. And that's proven invaluable kind of working with them as they contribute from a technical and capital markets perspective. It's good to have, because they've both been on the ground. They've both been in the capital market scene. So you kind of bring it all together in terms of how things will trade and what to talk about kind of going forward. Ronaldo Stefan, 25 years domestic and international mining experience covering engineering, procurement, and constructive mining activities. He's led delivery of mega projects and programs such as Vale Long Harbor Processing Plant, BHP Potash Development Program in Saskatchewan, Canada, to name a few. So he's a great asset to the external advisory group if we ever need to lean on any information relevant for evaluation of projects. Rick Horn, economic geologist, 40 years experience, expertise in low gold systems, geological mapping and structural geology, 20 years with the Nova Scotia Energy and Mines with a focus on bedrock mapping. Industry experience includes senior roles as chief geologist with Acadian Mining prior to the merger with Atlantic Gold, acted as chief geologist and mine manager of the Dufferin Mine, Resource Capital. So he proved invaluable when we were kind of progressing the Harrigan Cove property to a decision point, as he's very familiar with the geology, which proved to be an asset to us, although it's no longer with us. So that's kind of a summary of our team and what we have to offer.
Yeah. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about the projects that you're involved in, and also, I suppose, why you picked those particular projects. Was there any sort of characteristics that may be similar amongst the projects, or criteria that you generally look for in a project?
So, why did we pick the projects? Overall, the goal of Heritage Mining is to acquire and develop a tier 1 gold, silver, and base metal project. This is from inception. Project characteristics that we look for from a project stage. We have the team that can handle exploration, development, and or junior, more or less micro producer. As I mentioned, our commodity focus is gold, silver, and base metals. The region that we've focused on is predominantly, low geopolitical risk in minely friendly jurisdictions. So Canada, US, some parts of Latin America. We look for an exploration upside. So prospective geologic terrain translating to strong exploration upside that could provide resource growth and eventually, project upside. Another aspect is technical simplicity. Supportive geophysics, geochemistry, geology, and metallurgy outlining kind of a well-defined and technically simple project target. And the last category that we have is, established historic mining jurisdictions. So proximity to infrastructure, skilled labor, supporting the likelihood of future economic production. Just from a, maybe even call it gold equivalent, we're looking for over 1 million ounces. Is kind of to sum it all up, is where our heads are at. I'll focus on the Black Lake Drayton project. We are in elephant territory with arguably an established elephant hunting group, so to speak, to keep the metaphor going. We're along the Indian trend with Rainy River and Treasury Metals. This project has never been explored as an aggregate package for low-grade, high-tonnage gold and gold copper. There's over 100 years of data that has never been compiled, so a true treasure trove of information to support a drill-ready strategy to rapidly advance the project. I can go into a few kind of, fun facts about each of the zones that we've identified a little bit later. Another important item, we're close proximity to infrastructure. Railway and power going alongside and through the property, respectively. There's a paved highway through the property, well-maintained logging roads, and ATV trails. I can attest to this personally, as I was, up there with a chainsaw clearing a few fallen trees on the ATV trails. 21 high-priority targets have been historically identified, and we visited 80 of them. We've identified, so now to kind of jump in and split the package up into 4 zones. So we have the Moretti, Split Lake, Shaft, and West Zone, all showing early signs of plus million ounce deposit style similar to Goldland and Goliath deposits. This is all kind of early indications, as it is an exploration project. And let's jump into each one specifically on why we liked it after our due diligence visit and, chewing through the data that we could get our hands on within the time frame. So there's, past the standouts, past historic workings, bulk sample 8 tons at 14 grams, 4 tons at 18 grams per ton, 10 to 30 wide meters, over 20 gold and copper showings. You have rock grab samples up to, over 1,000 grams per ton, channel and trench samples over 10 grams, gold, multiple grabs over, a couple hundred grams per ton, also up to 6% copper, from VG bearing quartz veins. So a lot of kind of surface work and historical information that we can kind of collaborate and aggregate together to systematically develop a well-targeted drill program. Moving on to the center part of the project, the Split Lake zone, multiple grabs over 2.7 ounce per ton. I mean, this is just kind of a common theme that we found when we were up there and just looking at the data, that there's just grabs, drills, there's shafts, just kind of peppered throughout the property, in the ounces. So it's just the whole thing is really interesting, from an exploration standpoint. Specifically, the Split Lake zone has a shaft that we kind of went up and had a look. It ended up being, a 3-level. Can't really tell when you're there, but after kind of following up on it, there's a 3-level vertical shaft, with surface work. I mean, there's blast rock sitting there at 3 grams per ton. That's, didn't mean much back in the day in 1937, but, now is pretty serious. So it's a great indication. There's also, multiple other zones kind of on trend that are, in the ounces per ton, kind of category, from, grabs and channels. So it's extremely interesting, project that we, can't wait to get our hands on and start drilling it out. Moving on to the, shaft zone. So the, kind of southwestern portion of the property. You have, 2 shafts on the property. We ended up, just getting to one. I think I got a bit spooked. I'm not going to lie. It was, bear hunting season, from Archer, and we kind of came across a bear bait barrel. So we didn't really finish up, checking out the one shaft, but we ended up going to the other shaft zone, which had a drill hole narrow intercept 2 meters at 14 grams. Another interesting, area of the shaft zone was the Macombre zone. So that's within the shaft zone. So it's on an island, Minnetonka Lake. We went over on a boat, and we, once you pull up to the shoreline, you see the old discarded core. You kind of go on a hike around, and I'm with, Mitch Lavery. I had, some I had a bad case of food poisoning that day. So I was kind of down and out, but still kind of trucking through. And, he kind of goes, if this is a trench area, this is the trench area. So, okay, let's check it out. And you end up, kind of scraping back some overburden. And then you actually, find an old channel sample. So it's just totally cool. And the good point, to point out is that, we're uncovering this stuff, so no one's really followed up with this in the last 10 years. Right. So, and again, this is the old historical kind of work that you read. And then once you kind of put your eyes on it, no one's done work on this for at least 10 years. So again, more value to add. And that trench, and I'll kind of go over the results of those 2 trenches. So the trench 2, which is the one that, we had the channel sample on. So there's 22 feet, average of 0.076 ounces per ton, the gold, and then 1.38% copper at surface. Trench number 2, 0.07 ounces per ton and 1.42% copper. That was over 43.3 feet. This is from surface. So, the shaft zone is a very interesting area that we've prioritized. And again, we think, there's early signs of over 1 million ounces gold or gold equivalent there, and we're very excited to visit it. The West Zone, we didn't get a chance to visit. However, similar style, on trend. It's the part closest to Treasury Metals, and with surface chip and grab samples assaying up to 4.4 ounces per ton gold. So that kind of wraps up the fourth zone. And overall, again, very, very excited to get working on the project. And as a final note, so these are all kind of early signs of that were shown and demonstrated over major gold mining districts, specifically, Rice Lake, Red Lake, Pickle Crow, Long Lac, Hemlo, Campbell, and Timmins. And that's just from a gold perspective that we've kind of noticed to this point. From a base metal perspective, relevant deposits, the Gecko, Sturgeon Lake, Winston Lake, Timmins, Noranda. So, we're kind of in elephant country with the right team that we think that we can advance this region and add some serious value to the Ontario mining industry. So we kind of, we're really looking forward to start chewing away, and we've already started chewing with the data and booking an EM and MEG airborne survey in the upcoming months, which is very exciting. Overall, as you mentioned, what are the similarities? So the deposit style, commodity, and exploration targets are what we think is Archean orogenic low gold and magmatic base metal mineralized systems. Stockwork, vein, magmatic, and shear hosted precious metal and base metal deposits are the kind of characteristics that are shown. The region, mature mining district in Ontario, globally recognized, low geopolitical risk, well-developed infrastructure. We have an established historic mining jurisdiction, so Rainy River Sioux Lookout Gold District, comprehensive exploration data, and close to skilled labor, services, and infrastructure. Okay.
What challenges have you faced as a business, obviously, since you formed over the last few years?
The biggest challenge is, the company took off basically in the middle of a global pandemic. And I think we've done really well as a result of it, but it didn't make it any easier for us. I think COVID, over the past year and a half has taken a toll on all of us. Myself personally, I'm not a huge fan from working at home, especially when you work at home, you hang out at home. It's just been, it's tough. I mean, fortunately, we have an office space now that we can kind of collaborate with, but it's still, it's just kind of an ongoing struggle, and you don't know what's around the corner. From an operational perspective, we've had to rely on our relationships in the various areas that we've been looking at, and it's kind of hindered our project evaluation capabilities, whether we kind of have boots on the ground that can go and check out the projects, whether it was in Nova Scotia, Ontario, or Peru, Nevada. It's been a struggle. Obviously not for Ontario and Nova Scotia. We had boots on the ground, and we had kind of drills turning shortly after we signed the definitive agreement. But it comes into the process of evaluating projects, and has definitely held us back. So we kind of look forward to the future, and I think we've mitigated these shortcomings quite favorably for the company. Separate from that, another challenge that we found was, finding a project. I mean, it's a painstaking process. I've clicked on every gold, copper, publicly traded company on the TSX Venture, CSC, and some of the ASX listed companies in our area of interest. And it's tough. And then you find a project that, geologically is very interesting. And then talking with the the groups to try and extract that out of the company, I mean, is another whole, can of worms. So, and then willing to part with it, with enough space for you to add value to your own shareholders. It's been tough. So I'm very happy to, have that behind us. Although and it is a bit of a blessing. We have kind of our hit list as well for kind of future strategic acquisitions. But, we're glad to have that, in the rear view mirror, having solidified our position in Ontario. And we're going to look to aggressively, systematically advance the property. So why would someone want to follow our company? I mean, we've just acquired a huge package in Ontario that, again, has never been systematically developed from a low-grade, high-tonnage perspective. And it's so big and there's so many zones that it's really going to take us, a couple of years to really kind of get to the bottom of what is actually there, and which is very exciting. So I definitely would encourage listeners to kind of follow along the company, from the early days, which is now in our pilot stage, and just hang tight and let us grow the company. Why would somebody want to invest in the company? To take a step back, once we kind of, we found our project, we made our decision with, Group 10 in Ontario for, we've already talked about that. And then you got to figure out, how is this going to trade relative to everyone else? So how do you get there? Right. And, with my background, I kind of sat back and, okay, so how many exploration projects are there in the gold copper exploration stage, inclusive of, option agreements, which are at the definitive stage all the way through to completion. I mean, that if I could get that data, that would be good. So we got that data. Great. About 160. Okay. So then what happened is you go, okay, I would like to see, public companies that have projects that are leading in Ontario. So kind of flagship Ontario properties. Of those 160, call it about 40 that have projects in the gold copper exploration stage that are, there may or may not be an option agreement. It may or not be fully earned in. So it kind of gives us a nice bucket to compare ourselves to. So our comparable list. And then, how do you kind of evaluate, relative to your competition where you would stand? So we looked at it from a project size, a cash position, and capital structure. So from a project size, we are in the top quartile. We have a large land package, and that's just for a flagship. I mean, separate Contact Bay, that's 4,700 hectares. That's pretty big too. You put those together, we're top tier, period, full stop, right? We're in the top quartile, hands down. But if we just focus on our flagship, which is kind of the approach, top tier, top quartile, fantastic. Cash position, interestingly enough, top tier as well. When you actually look at the last year in terms of capital raises in that space, we've raised, we're keeping par with how much capital has been raised, in the public sector, but we're private. So we definitely got some loyal shareholders that keep kind of coming back and believing in us, which goes to show about demonstrates the ability of the management team, which is great. Another good point, especially early on, is our capital structure. So we have a very tight capital structure relative to what's out there. Approximately, 16 million shares outstanding, 15.64 to kind of be precise. Before a big capital raise, and even after the capital raise, we're still sitting at a very favorable share structure. So you kind of put all that together. We get some money in the bank to after the IPO to advance the project. I mean, it's nothing but value add. Me personally, of course, similar to the whole team, we favor dollars spent in the ground, and we will continue to do so. We have a relatively low G&A burn at the moment, kind of look forward to just adding value. And that's what we're doing. We've kind of put our money where our mouth is. I mean, we've signed up. We already signed a contract to fly EM and Mag for both Contact Bay and the Black Lake Drayton project. That is signed and done. Once we sign the binding LOI, with Black Lake, I looked at the data room and just said, okay, you know what? Let's get Longford Exploration in here and let's chew through this data and let's get it in a format where we can upload it in 3D and have a look. We've got that information now and we're chewing through it. So we're like, we are moving fast. We're going public and it's going to be a very exciting 2022. Not much more to say. Everybody's really excited and, can't wait to start the capital raise for the go public transaction. And we're very excited to have kind of Red Cloud by our side, leading the charge. So, can't wait for the future. And I definitely, encourage, everyone to kind of follow the story. Give me a call if you want. I'm open and I'm here, for everybody to kind of just, bounce ideas off of or whatever you want to do.
Yeah. And lastly, what's the outlook for the company over, say, the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah. So the outlook for the next 12 to 18 is obviously going public. We just recently closed a small financing, just north of call it 350,000. It's we're still wrapping it up on the hard dollars, but right now there's about 350 left, 350 closed. So we're closing up that financing. We've selected our go public partners. We're doing a kind of a full blown brokered IPO. We're also, so then in 18 months from an exploration perspective, we've already signed a contract with Prospect Air to fly the entire Black Lake Drayton project. So that's scheduled, Q1, which is great. And that is important because they're putting in, a large power line in, and that kind of distorts the readings from an airborne perspective when the results come in. So we want to kind of mitigate that and get out in front. That'll be followed up by groundwork. And then within, 6 months of closing our IPO, we want to have drills turning. So there's, a lot of news flow to come out, and kind of nobody's looked at this in aggregate for the past kind of 125 years. So we got a lot of data that's been kind of digitized. We've already been working on it. We're kind of, evaluating and developing targets now in our 4 zones. So, we got a lot of work ahead of us in the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, no, it seems it as well. Peter, really appreciate your time and give us an overview of Heritage Mining. Obviously, it seems that you've got a lot on your plate, and obviously wish you well in the coming year. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions that they want to ask you, how can they go about doing that? Are you across any social media platforms at all?
Yeah, you can email me directly, peter@heritagemining.ca. Phone numbers on the website. You can have a look on the website. We are on LinkedIn, Facebook, and we have an Instagram account too. So feel free to follow any of those and reach out. I'm on it personally, so if you want to chat, that's who the message is going to on any of those platforms. So
yeah, no worries, and we can include those in the show notes accompany this anyway. So
absolutely.
Really appreciate your time, Peter. Hopefully our audience will reach out to you if they've got any particular questions. Like I said, you've got quite a lot going on, and obviously a lot of potential there, especially with the amount of land mass that you're going to be covering. So, like I said, wish you well for the coming year. Hope the audience enjoyed this podcast. Please reach out to Peter if you've got any questions, and obviously he'd be happy to answer them. So, all the best, and until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.